Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and this video where I'm finally going to honor the managers of the week throughout a couple game weeks that I missed due to my injury. If you don't know, I broke my arm right before Christmas, so I was sort of not doing as much FPL content while I was trying to nurse my broken arm. But now that I'm back making content again, I want to get back to what we lost and look at the managers of the week from game week 16 through 19, which is the 4 game weeks that I didn't manage to do this on the channel. So sorry for that. I'm excusing myself for not being able to make content for you guys, but hopefully I'll make it up to you with this video, where not only will I go through the managers of the week and look at their scores in the particular game weeks, I'm also going to look at their teams and basically make like a roadmap for how you can use your chips as well going forward and what you need to think about when using your chips in the future. And luckily for most people in this video, they have most of their chips left, especially wildcard and free hit is available for all teams. So that makes it a bit like more easy to make up what to do later on in the season. If you have used all your chips, it's going to be a bit more limited, which is also going to be a bit easier to navigate as well, because now honestly there's too many options in my opinion, because there are a lot of different ways to tackle these game weeks that you have with all the tips that you have remaining. But let's just start with the first manager of the week that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the manager of the week from game week 16, which is going to be Anshuman Polywall. I'm not quite sure if I pronounced that correctly, but hopefully I did. But anyways, this is this person's team. And first and foremost, the major thing about this team is the transfer, getting in Lewis Hall for 15 points. Lewis Hall, as you'll see, is going to be a really popular player for the next few game weeks in terms of getting a lot of points. And in game week 15, or in game week 16, sorry, he got 15 points from 2 assists. One of them a bit dubious. I'm not sure if he should have had that one, but nonetheless, he got 15 points, 3 bonus points, 2 assists, clean sheets, everything that you need for a high score from a defender. So yeah, brilliant from Lewis Hall. Gabriel kept a clean sheet against Everton, I think, where he got 3 bonus points as well, 9 points from him. Guardiola scored that goal against Man United. That was really nice. The captaincy situation is the only thing that was a bit of a downside this week. You can see 81 points overall is not the best for a manager of the week, but that's mostly down to the captain, as we'll see in a different week. Game week will have a captain with a much higher score, meaning the game week score is also going to be a bit higher. But yeah, Palmer captain, 3 points against Brentford. That's the same thing that I did. I went for him as captain, and he was close but just didn't make it there. Instead, it was his teammate Nicholas Jackson and Enzo Fernandez who got the points. They got 1 goal, 1 assist each. So at least this manager had Jackson to be there to get some points on top of that. But yeah, Salah only got an assist in this game week, but Heung-min Son was a huge benefactor for this team. 14 points. I know that's crazy to look at a Spurs player and a Spurs player having that many points, but that was because they played Southampton that week. It's always a nice game week to basically target Southampton because Spurs beat them 5-0, and we know how bad Spurs are currently. So yeah, 14 points from Son there. 2 points from Bowen away to Bournemouth, which is a tough game. We know, especially now, how good Bournemouth can be, so that was a tough game. Joe Pedro also 2 points blanked in that game week. And Acuna with 9 points. He was really on fire as well in these game weeks, as we'll see with the next few teams as well. And that was basically enough to get 81 points for this team in total, which is a really nice score. Currently, this manager sits at around 211k overall, which is a pretty decent rank to have currently. Especially seeing as last season the rank was 2.7 million, so a lot of progression from last season, which is always really nice to see. And like I said, the most important thing here is the chips remaining, namely all of them. Wildcard is available, triple captain is available, bench boost is available, and free hit is available. So yeah, let's go into what this team should look for in the future. Obviously, this was the team in game week 16, so let's see how the team has changed as well. Now all the way up until going into game week 23. There's been quite a few changes. You know, Bowen has been injured. There's been a couple other reasons to change the team. So let's see how the team looks right now. And we do that by the power of the site called FPL.team, which is a fantastic site for you if you want to look into how you can manage your team in the game weeks going forward, basically. So this is the team. A couple changes, as you can see. Ula Aina is in the team. He's been pretty good lately. In general, Ismail Assar is there, and Mbeumo was there, coming into the midfield. Cody Gakpo as well up front, which is going to be really nice, especially now for game week 23 and game week 24, which is a double game week for the Liverpool players. So really nice to have Gakpo in there. Ipswich at home is also a really nice game. We saw them just get battered by Man City, so that's also bodes well. Isak against Southampton, the captaincy thing, you could choose between Salah or Isak in this instance. I think both are pretty good options. Maybe you want to go with Isak for the current form, even though he blanked last game week. Maybe you want to go with Salah because Ipswich at home is a really nice game week, and also it's at home. I think either or, it's a pretty good choice between them. Same sort of goes for the last player. I mean, Mbeumo could be benched. Crystal Palace away is slightly tough, I guess. But then again, Mbeumo can score against anyone. Or you could potentially bench Nicholas Jackson if you don't like, especially if he struggles now against Wolves, which is going to be played right after I finish this video. If he struggles in that match as well, you might as well just bench him for this game. But honestly, I don't think Man City is that tough of a game for an attacking player. I think Chelsea can actually be on the front foot there and score a couple of goals. I think it could be a bit of a goal fest that game. So yeah, I'm not sure who I would bench at this moment in time, but I guess you see what happens with Nicholas Jackson. He could be the prime suspect, but I think potentially there's the decision between Mbeumo and Jackson in this instance. Maybe Sarr, because he's been also a bit disappointing, but Brentford at home is usually a good game. But anyways, it doesn't really matter that much. The thing that matters is actually the transfer, and you have an option here to get another player that has double game week in game week 24. That is namely selling Sanchez. He has this really tough fixture against Man City, most likely going to concede. Aston Villa away for Fabianski, that's also a tough match. So instead, I think the best course of action here is to bring in a goalkeeper that has a double game week in game week 24. We can't afford Alisson, but we can afford Jordan Pickford, who's going to be really handy there for game week 24, especially game week 23 as well. Brighton away isn't the worst fixture. You do sort of expect Everton to concede. They have conceded quite a few goals under Moyes, so maybe Pickford isn't the best idea. Maybe you can go for a defender instead. Maybe you can upgrade Van den Berg to Mikolenko instead to have that Everton cover, and then just leave the goalkeeper as is. But at the same time, Robert Sanchez is a terrible goalkeeper for FPL. At least he has been so far this season, and as someone that has had him since game week 6, I'm sort of just looking to get rid of him anyway. But yeah, let's move on to game week 24 as well, which is obviously going to be the double game week. Pickford has those two fixtures: Leicester at home, which is fantastic; Liverpool at home, not as fantastic, but we've also seen Everton have some clean sheets in the past against the likes of Arsenal, for example. So Pickford could be a really good candidate this game week. Then you have Salah and Gakpo, but you still have room for another Liverpool defender. And here I actually think you could potentially sell Gabriel, but he has Leicester and West Ham, for example, in the next 2 matches. So you could sell him for Konate. You don't have enough money for Trent, sadly. But I think I would actually sell Ola Aina because he has really tough fixtures. Brighton at home isn't the worst, but then Fulham away, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, Man City at home as well. Yeah, and then game 29, you could potentially want to free hit anyway. So yeah, and Man United and Aston Villa here as well. It's not the best. I mean, Man United isn't the worst either, but yeah. So I think selling Olana and getting in another double game week player in Konate from Liverpool is a pretty good idea. You get another double game week player here. I'm not the biggest fan of using slot for the assistant manager chip, so I think I would rather triple up with Liverpool instead and have a defender from Liverpool. Ideally, it would be Trent Alexander-Arnold, but in this case, you don't really have the money unless you save money elsewhere. Maybe you don't want to do the goalkeeper. Maybe you want to downgrade Nicholas Jackson to Calvert-Lewin, for example. That will probably give you enough money to do potentially Gabriel to Trent Alexander-Arnold if you want to do that route instead. But personally, I think Nicholas Jackson still has something left to give. He has some nice matches, including in game 24 against West Ham at home. He scored twice against West Ham away, so I think that's a pretty good fixture for him. Could easily see him start over Sarr, who plays Man United away, which is tougher-ish, I guess. Gabriel also should be in the team, by the way, in this past game week rather than Robinson, because Gabriel is always someone you want to start. But anyways, I think Nicholas Jackson could be good. I still don't really lose hope on him. I think he's going to come good eventually. He was so good at the start of the season, and he has to find his form eventually, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't mind keeping him instead, rather than doing the Calvert-Lewin and Trent approach. But yeah, if you prefer getting Trent rather than Konate, especially, you could go the Calvert-Lewin route instead. But yeah, those are the transfers for game 23 and 24. You've used your free transfer in both game weeks. So at this moment in time, seeing as we have a couple of key game weeks in the future now, we use the 2 transfers now to set up for the double game week with some extra matches for Pickford and Konate. But now it is all about saving transfers, and I think you're in a pretty good position to do that with this team. Pretty much every single game week you're going to have even like a benching dilemma in most game weeks. Even here, like, who would you bench here? Would you bench Nicholas Jackson against Brighton, seeing as Chelsea scored like 6 goals against Brighton last time around? Or would you bench Sarr against Everton? Like, you have a lot of good options here. Even in defense, Hall has City, but you have Robinson playing against Nottingham Forest, which is a really nice player to have as well. So yeah, I think in general these weeks you can just set up a pretty strong team regardless of who you have or who you want to start. Konate and City, you can bench him there. And you have Hall, Robinson, and Gabriel with favorable fixtures. That's really good. Obviously, captaincy you could choose and swap around as you go, but I'm not really taking that into account for this video. But yeah, I think you have a pretty strong team regardless. Gakpo against Man City, I don't mind that at all. I think Liverpool can score a lot of goals against Man City. Aston Villa away is not even the worst fixture. You can score a lot of goals in that game as well. So yeah, I think in general it's looking really nice, and it is important to save up transfers because there's going to be a lot of transfer activity needed for the later game weeks in the season, because we have 2 double game weeks and we have 2 blank game weeks coming up later on in the season after game week 24. So yeah, let's actually just go ahead to that, because I've gone through the team and it looks pretty good for the next few game weeks. Obviously, there could be changes, maybe some injuries, maybe some players look just irresistible and you need to have them in their team, in your team. But all in all, I think you should survive until game 29 without doing many transfers at all. And speaking of game 29, this is a blank game week. I've done this on FPL.team. You can go down here and click the Set Planet FPL Projected Fixtures button. Then you actually get the projected blanks and doubles for the rest of the season, including the matches that are affected by the League Cup final here. So in this instance, we expect both Newcastle and Liverpool to go through to the Cup final in the League Cup, meaning that their games against Aston Villa and against Crystal Palace will be off. And that means that this team has pretty much no players whatsoever, really. Pickford, Gabriel, Robinson, Vandenberg, Mbeumo, Palmer, Jackson. 4 players in the starting lineup missing, 3 players on the bench missing matches. For me, this team looks like a team that needs free hit in game 29. It's going to be a different strategy for each team. We're going to get to the other 2 teams in this video as well. But for me, it seems like free hit is the best strategy here. But of course, things can change. All of a sudden, Liverpool are not blanking here anyway, because they go out against Spurs, and then it's a different set of fixtures that are available to us. So yeah, you can't really know this for sure right now. But if Liverpool and Newcastle go through to the League Cup final, I think free hit is the best option for you, because not only do you have very few players with pretty tough matches, honestly. Chelsea at home, Spurs at home in terms for defenders, not the best. Bournemouth away is pretty bad. Arsenal away is pretty bad. Bournemouth away is a tough fixture. Like, the players that you do have that do play aren't really the best players either for this game week. So not only do they have tough fixtures, there's also quite a few decent matches in game week 29. You can see Bournemouth against Brentford at home. I think that's a pretty good game week to have the likes of Kirkus and Semenyo and the likes. Everton against West Ham, that could really be anyone's game. You can choose West Ham players to go for there. Maybe Bone is back and is looking good. Maybe you want to go with Everton players there in that game. It's a pretty open game where you could choose whichever team you'd like, basically. Man United have a really favorable fixture against Leicester away, and you don't have Amad Diallo or Bruno Fernandes or any defenders from Man United, so that seems like a nice team to target. Man City against Brighton, that should be a really good fixture for them in terms of scoring goals. So yeah, there's just so many good teams with players that you don't have currently in your squad that I think free hit is by far the best option for you in game week 29 for this squad, basically. So yeah, not going to go too far into it, but obviously you have game week 30, which is going to be a pretty popular wildcard week for those of you guys who are that ending into 29, where you're actually doing transfers to get 11 players on the pitch there. But in this instance, if you use the free hit chip in game week 29, and you have also saved up 5 transfers, that's going to be really nice, because you're going to go into game week 33, which is going to be a double game week, with quite a lot of double game week players already, because they were the ones blanking. The 7 players that you had blanking in game week 29 are going to have a double in game week 33. So you're already going to have a lot of double game week players here. You can even fill up most of the squad with double game week players, if you put in Konate here, and Fabianski, for example, in goal. You're going to have a really good team without doing any transfers. And you still have 5 transfers left. You can use that for later on in the season if you want to. You can have some more double game week players if you really like the look of someone here. For example, Newcastle, you could get in Gordon in for Mbeumo, for example. That could be a good idea in terms of maximizing the returns for the double game week. Gordon against Crystal Palace at home and Aston Villa away. That sounds like a pretty good idea to me, at least. But at the same time, I think you could also keep transfers to a minimum, and this is a game week where in this tactic, I think it works out better to use the assistant manager chip, which we're going to get now in game week 31. So you get it for game week 31, game week 32, and then in the double game week in game week 33 as well. You can target someone. Maybe you want to go with Aston Villa. Maybe they get bonus points beating both Liverpool and Newcastle potentially. That could be a nice use of the triple captain or the assistant manager chip on Unai Emery there. You could go with maybe Palace have the same with Newcastle and Bournemouth. Maybe they get the bonus from being 5 places below Newcastle and Bournemouth in this game week. There's a lot of good options for good assistant managers in Game Week 33. And you can also use some of your transfers in Game Week 31 and Game Week 32 on your assistant managers as well. You can choose an assistant manager in Game Week 31, ideally someone that has like a favorable home fixture against a team that is like 5 places above them, even though they don't deserve to be. Like, for example, Brighton against Palace. You could easily see Palace winning that game. So maybe you want to start and have Glasner as your assistant manager here. Let's see what Palace have in this fixture. City away, it's a bit tough, but I can see Palace potentially getting something there. But maybe you want to switch your manager already. Maybe you want to switch over to who did I land on? Yeah, you could just stay with the Palace manager as well, or you can switch to Emery for the assistant manager hpxeri in Southampton and potentially get a lot of goals, for example, and a clean sheet, and you can get a lot of points that way. So yeah, the assistant managership on either Glasner or Emery in these game weeks seems pretty good. That means also you can just go through in Game Week 33, which is the double game week, with basically a really strong team and without using your bench boost chip either, but using your assistant manager chip. And then in Game Week 34, you would have to do a lot of transfers to bring in players. But as you can see here, the players that you do have actually have some favorable fixtures this time around. Crystal Palace at home for Arsenal, Ipswich at home for Newcastle. It's just a better time to use your free transfers to make up a pretty good team for this game week as compared to Game Week 29. I think it works better for Game Week 34. And then you would use your wildcard in Game Week 35 and then set up for the double in Game Week 36, basically, and have like a fresh bench boostable team here with the wildcard chip. You see already here you have a lot of double game week players. We don't really know yet which teams are going to double or not in this game week, so it's a bit too early to speculate and do like a wildcard draft or something like that, but I think the strategy is looking really good for you, and the team's looking pretty well set up for the future to do basically triple captain here with Salah. I forgot to mention that as well. Triple captain there with Salah. Then you go to game week 29, you use free hit in game week 29 and get a really sick team for game week 29, the best possible team. Then you navigate these game weeks, game week 31, 32, 33 with assistant managership. Either Glasner or Unai Emery, I think would be really, really nice. Could be some really good bonus potential in terms of being a team that is 5 places below the team that they're facing. And then navigating this with free transfers, you're going to have a lot of free transfers saved up, hopefully, which I do think that you should try to have in mind currently. And then you wildcard in game week 35, and then the double game week in game week 36, where you use the bench boost as well. So you use all your chips here in general, basically. So including the wildcard in game week 35, like I mentioned. So yeah, I think that chip strategy is really nice for you. I think you have a pretty good outlook for the season. I think you're pretty well set up for game week 29 and game week 33. With your team, so I think you have some pretty nice things going for you, basically. So yeah, that's my advice for your team. Let's move on to the next one. So we're moving on from game week 16, the manager of the week in that week, and we're not going to game week 17 just yet. There's a reason for that, which we'll get to eventually. Let's skip ahead to game week 18 and the manager of the week for game week 18, which is going to be Mo Deck, who got 87 points this game week, a game week rank of 22k, which is also pretty nice. Current overall rank is 184k, so that's a pretty nice place to be in before the upcoming game weeks. That's the current rank, not after game week 18, but the current rank going into game week 23, especially, or at least before the Chelsea-Wolves game that is getting played right as I am recording this video. But yeah, I didn't mention this earlier in the video, but if you want to be featured like you just saw with the previous manager as the manager of the week on this YouTube channel, you can join the FPL Scope Mini League with the league code hpxeri, and if you have the highest score in one particular game week, you'll get featured on either the FPL Scope podcast that I do with Kevin or in one of the videos that I make. Just like Mo Deck is going to get right now, the Manager of the Week treatment, but this video I'm a bit more in-depth because it's been a couple weeks since they were actually Managers of the Week, and I wanted to do like a chip strategy sort of video here as well. But anyways, Mo Deck, let's go through the Game Week 18 score as well. Double clean sheet for Arsenal with Raya getting 6 points and Timber getting 9 points. That was the last one before they started conceding every game, I feel like. Hall and Milinkovic also got clean sheets, 6 points for each. No bonus points, sadly, for any of them for this manager, but still, obviously, a really good game week. When it comes to captaincy, again, a bit of a middling game week where Salah got 9 points from 1 goal against Leicester. That's pretty good. Palmer got 10 points from a goal against Fulham. and Isak got 8 points from his goal against Aston Villa, I think. So that was pretty nice. Bowen as well with 8 points, the winning goal against Southampton. And Cunha had a goal and an assist against Manchester United in this game week as well. So with Rodgers and Enzo blanking, that leads us to 87 points, which is enough to be getting the Manager of the Week honors in Game Week 18 for Modek. The one transfer was Saka to Bowen. Bowen did really well in this game week, and I think he would have been a nice option going forward as well. But he sadly got injured pretty soon after this, and yeah, wasn't really of much use. Obviously, we know now with hindsight that Phil Foden would have been the best replacement. He's been absolutely amazing since this time, especially game week 20, 21, and 22. He was absolutely on fire. But it's hard to predict the future, and I think Bowen was actually a pretty good move at the time, in my opinion, and I'm saying that as someone biased who had Bowen at least. But yeah, also Wood being benched to 2 points. This was the last blank for Wood before he scored in 4 game weeks in a row, which obviously also helped this manager because this manager is doing pretty well so far in FPL. So let's take a look into the future and what to do with this team. And this team differs a bit from the one that we just looked at in terms of the players available here. There is still Hall from Newcastle on top of Isak, but there's no one from Crystal Palace. Rodgers is also out of the team at this point. There's no one from Aston Villa in this team. So there are going to be a lot less blank players for Game Week 29, and I think that changes the chip strategy a little bit. So let's look into that eventually. But for this game week, Game Week 23, 1.8 million in the bank, 3 transfers left. You only have 2 Liverpool players. I think this seems pretty obvious what you want to do, and that is selling Timber and getting Trent. You already have Raya in goal, who you could keep, you could sell. It's pretty much up to you. But I think getting Trent in for this game week and starting him over the likes of Milinkovic is a good idea. I also think Salah's the best captain, but again, not going to do too much when it comes to captaincy choices. It's either him or Isak, and for the next few game weeks, just disregard the captain, because yeah, I'm not going to go into that too much, because that is in the future. You make your choice up or your mind up when it comes to captaincy in that game week, not before. Maybe you plan to bring in players if you want to captain certain players for certain game weeks, but yeah, in this video, I'm not going to take too much time talking about captains because there's so much else to get to basically. But yeah, I think that's decent enough for this game week. I think the players that you have are pretty good for this game week. Maybe you could do something with the striker. Maybe you could downgrade Cunha to like a Calvert-Lewin or Ndiaye, for example. But I think Cunha is going to be pretty good eventually. He has some tough fixtures here, but he also gets some pretty good fixtures around here, and especially seeing as you are looking to not use a free hit in Game Week 29 in this instance, I think it actually works out really well considering he has Southampton. So yeah, I think Cunha is someone I would like to keep, even though he has a pretty tough fixture in this game week. So yeah, that is the team for Game Week 23 basically. Not that much in the bank, but that's going to be helped on by a transfer pretty soon. You think you could make a case to sell Raya for Pickford as well to get a double game week player. The fixtures aren't too bad actually beyond Man City's. You might want to just keep Raya. Could be a good idea. Game Week 29 against Chelsea, not the ideal fixture either for that game week. But again, Arsenal are the best defensive team in the league, or at least they have been for most parts of the season. So I don't think you need to bring in Everton players, but if you want to, you could always go with Pickford something there, or you could potentially also try to find money for upgrading Greaves, sorry, that was my voice cracking. Greaves to Mykolenko, for example, instead, because you don't have enough money in the bank, sadly, to get Mykolenko just straight up here for the money. But I think this team is looking pretty good for this game week. You have the triple Liverpool, which is the most important thing for the double game week. I don't think Everton players are that important. They do play Leicester, and then they have a double extra fixture against Liverpool, but I do expect them to lose against Liverpool and not really do much in that game. So yeah, I don't really mind going into this game week with only 3 Liverpool players and no Everton players. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but you could get Pickford in for Raya, for example, if you want that. That will also save you some money, for example. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do that. Maybe you want to do that. You have 0.7 extra in the bank there, and you get some extra options in the next few game weeks, basically. But yeah, you would also use up one of your transfers. You still have 3 transfers, so Game Week 25. And a pretty good team. Again, you could pick and choose who you want to start and stuff. I'm not going to go too far into that, just to make sure that you have a good enough starting team. Here we have a bit of a conundrum here with Hall playing against Man City and Milinkovic playing against Fulham. You could sell Hall, but he has at least Game Week 28 is pretty good. You could sell him potentially, but he also has pretty good fixtures here. But Game Week 30 is actually where you look into wildcard. So You could sell Hull, he's a pretty expensive player, 5.0. You could also sell Milenkovic, he has pretty tough fixtures in general up until Game Week 29, but he has a really nice Game Week 29 fixture, which is where you don't want to use your free hits. So yeah, selling Hull is probably the best idea here, and this is also a team that you could actually target for this strategy. Bournemouth have really nice fixtures, Southampton in this game week, for Housen. You could also get Kirkus if you want a more expensive player, but I want the money extra because I'm going to do some moves in this game week, actually, Game 23. But yeah, really good immediate fixtures for Bournemouth, Southampton, Wolves, Brighton. Spurs is not even that bad. And then Brentford, and then you have the wildcard in Game Week 30 as well after that. But yeah, really good fixtures for Bournemouth. Really nice team to target in these game weeks. You could also do, for example, Mbeumo. He has really good fixtures, so you don't want to sell him really. Diaz has Wolves at home in this fixture. You don't want to sell him for that game week, but maybe later. But you could do Enzo to a different player who I think will be really good for these game weeks, and that is going to be Amad Diallo. You have enough money in the bank because you brought in Housen for Lewis Hall, and that means you can bench Cunha against Liverpool, and then you have a pretty strong team for this game week in general for Game 25. But you use 2 transfers as well, so only 2 transfers available from Game 26. And this is the point I think where you should still just try to save up transfers, even though you are actually needing the transfers to Game 29 as well. So it's extra imperative that you save your transfers for these game weeks and just make sure they have a decent starting 11 in place. And I think you can do that in these game weeks. Cunha, you could choose if you want to start him or if you want to start Luis Diaz. Actually, I think you could potentially just sell Luis Diaz in this game week. You're going to get quite a lot of money for him as well if you do that. So yeah, that could potentially be something that you do. I'm trying to think as I'm doing this who I actually brought in this place. Could actually be Amad Diallo that you already put in, maybe if you didn't put him in already. But yes, this is the player that I was looking for. Semenyo as well. I mentioned Bournemouth. They have really nice fixtures. There was no reason to switch sub off Diaz previously. But seeing as Diaz doesn't play in Game 29, and you're going to wildcard in Game 30 anyway, and have that Liverpool doubler for Game 33, whether it's Diaz or someone else, you can sell Diaz now and get a player that plays in Game 29 and has really nice fixtures leading up into that game week as well. So a bit of a different strategy when you don't free hit in 29 like the last manager did. So bringing in the players from, for example, Bournemouth that have really good fixtures is a really good idea in this instance. So from this point onwards, I think it's best to just keep your transfers. Cunha could start. Doesn't really matter who starts. Trent against City, I would start him any game. He also have a lot of money in the bank, which is also going to be nice for future game weeks. But sorry, I needed to cough a bit. But yeah, I think this team is looking pretty good. Man United also have pretty good fixtures in this area. Ipswich here, Leicester there as well. Arsenal's not ideal, obviously, but can't have them all, I guess. And Man United have actually been a pretty good big game team, and Amad Diallo has been really good in big games as well, so that is not really the worst fixture for him either. Probably would start Cunha over Wood in this game week. Other than that, I think the team is looking really strong in general, so I think you can go through this game week as well without transfers. You can save up the transfers that you have locked up. Housen against Spurs, that's probably a good fixture still. I don't really mind it. You could do some defensive transfers here, but I think seeing as you are going to need some transfers for 29, and then you're going to wildcard in Game 30, I don't think it's that important to do transfers here either. Then we come to Game 29, where you have some blank players, especially Salah, who you have probably a lot of money saved up in, or saved up money on Salah basically, and Isak. So I think you can just keep them on the bench. You have a pretty good strong team here already. Bournemouth away for Mbeumo, that's not ideal. And I think the best player for this game week, who could potentially be the captaincy choice, is Bruno Fernandes, who you could bring in for this game week in particular. But already you have, even before that Mbeumo move, you have actually a starting 11 of players that do play in this game week. So you don't really need to use any transfers here. You could save them up for the rest of the season. I think they're going to be really handy. But you could also look at the fixtures like I did previously and try to figure out which players you could potentially have for a 1 week punt. But again, I don't think using up transfers for a 1 week punt, is that worth it? Maybe for someone like Greaves against Nottingham Forest, I don't think that's going to be that fruitful in terms of any points from that. So you could go with a Man United defender here. You could go with another Nottingham Forest defender, for example. Maybe you want to go with Ola Aina, for example. That could be a good use of transfer. So with Aina in this position as well, I think you do actually have a really strong team for this game week without using the free hit and still having 2 free transfers in the bank for game week 31, or 3 free transfers even for game week 31. Because game week 30, you want to use the wildcard chip either in this game week or in game week 31. It doesn't really matter that much, because I don't think you want to use assistant manager chip in 31, 32, and 33 in this instance, because I think you want to bench boost in 33. So yeah, you use the wildcard and you stock up on players that do have double game weeks. And the thing we don't know yet is who's going to double in game week 36. So if we go down to the fixtures here, we know already who's going to, or we don't know yet, but we have a pretty good idea who's going to double in game week 33. For some reason, the projected fixtures here say that Bournemouth get a double game week in game week 33 as well, despite not blanking in 29, which is all the more reason to bring in a lot of Bournemouth players in this place here, because they're going to have really good fixtures and also a double in 33 without blanking in the game week 29. So that's going to be a really nice team to target, which we have done in this instance with Housen and Semenyo. You could also look at Cloyford, for example, or Kirkus. You could have 3 Bournemouth players in this moment in time, basically. So keep that in mind for these game weeks. But yeah, basically on the wildcard in game week 30, you can load up on players that have double game weeks in both 33 and 36. That could be an option, because we know we have the free hit left and we're going to use the free hit in game week 34. So you don't really have to worry about the blanks anymore in this scenario, basically. And that's what I like about this this chip strategy compared to the other one. You're going to be like done with double game weeks because you have a safeguard in the free hit here, and you can just focus on the rest of the game weeks beyond that game week. So there are pluses and minuses to the different tactics. I think it's very much team dependent, as you've seen now with these 2 teams. So I think, yeah, for the game week 30 wildcard, just figure out which teams are good to target with doubling game week 33 and potentially also doubling in 36. Could be the case that Bournemouth have both a double in 36 and in game week 33. No, that actually can't be the case because they get the blank in 34. But either way, you are potentially looking at teams like Aston Villa, for example, here with a double game week in 33 and 36, and Liverpool also in game 33 and 36. That means you can have 3 players from each of those teams, and you have a lot of double game week players without sacrificing anything in 34, because that's when you're going to use the free hit chip, basically. So yeah, we don't know yet what's going to happen in A30, so I'm not going to use or do like a wildcard draft, but you can set up the wildcard to have a really strong team here in game 33, and potentially bench boost as well. As you can see already with this team that you have here, you actually have a pretty solid team already, but this is obviously going to be a lot different when you wildcard in game 30. So this could be a good bench boost week, and then you can save your assistant manager chip for the end of the season. Use free hit in 34, you play 35 and stuff as usual. And then you have the assistant manager chip in 36, 37, and 38. I think it's the best. And you can target those later game weeks as well, which I do prefer as well. I do prefer using the assistant manager chip in 36, 37, 38, because that's the point of the season where there are some teams that are, for example, could be like 11th place, and they're already on the beach because they can't really get higher up in the table and they can't really get relegated, and that's usually the types of teams that you want to target, especially for that extra bonus that you get for playing a team that is 5 places higher than you. So for example, if Spurs are still struggling at this point in the season for some reason, and they're like 16th and they play a team that it's number 10 and are going to go down, or aren't going to go down and actually have nothing to play for, you could get like a huge boost from having Spurs in these game weeks. I'm not quite sure who Spurs have actually. Let's take a look at the fixtures that Spurs have in the 3 final game weeks of the season. Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Palace are most likely not going to be 5 places above, but Liverpool are for sure going to be. Aston Villa, there's a good chance they are 5 places above Spurs. And Brighton as well are also going to be most likely, or potentially, 5 places above Spurs, who are looking to end the season on a high here, potentially if they have a new manager as well. So yeah, I think that's like a decent place to use the assistant manager chip as well, seeing as you've used the other chips in the other game weeks. So I think this chip strategy works out better for you. So 2 different teams, 2 different chip strategies that I think currently at least are the best for each team. So there's so many different ways to play this game, and I encourage you all to play it in your way and in your style and what you prefer, and according to your needs in terms of which team you have currently. So yeah, that is the second team that we have for the Manager of the Week. We have one team left, even though we have Game Week 17 and Game Week 19 to talk about. And that is because we have the same manager for both those game weeks. We have the same manager being Manager of the Week in 2 game weeks out of 3, which is absolutely crazy. So let's move on to that manager right now. Yes, Alexander Stoichkan or Stoichan? I don't know how you pronounce it, but you did it. You were Manager of the Week in Game Week 17 and in Game Week 19. And both those game weeks, you got more than 100 points. It's absolutely fantastic. Brilliant work. Must applaud you. Like, that's amazing. As you can see, the team is pretty similar as well. Like, there's not many changes to the team. Basically just some work around the edges, a couple of transfers here and there. But the main same core of players. So let's first go to the Game Week 17 team and see what happened there. Cels and Aina, 2-0 win away from home against Brentford. We know how good Brentford are at home. That was absolutely amazing. Aina scored a goal, got 15 points. He's the highest scoring defender this season, and doubling up with him and Cels has just been tremendously profitable for anyone that has done that at any point this season. So fantastic work in Game Week 17 with 7 points from Cels, 15 from Aina. Both Robinson and Hall got clean sheets as well. I think Robinson played like 0-0 against Southampton or something, and Hall won 4-0 against Ipswich, I think, in this game week. Salah with 42 points. This was the game week where Liverpool played against Spurs. Salah went absolutely crazy and got 21 points times 2 as the captain, 42 points in this game week. Isak as well with 17 points in his game, 4-0 against Ipswich, I think, was this game week. Absolutely amazing as well. The one downside here, also Cunha got 9 points in his game. The one downside here is the fact that you have Rodgers on the bench with 14 points when you had Palmer with 3, Saka with 1, he got subbed off injured against Crystal Palace. Fernandes with 2 and Wood with 2. So you could have had an even better round if you had Rodgers in here as a starter, but nonetheless, 111 points in total. Absolutely fantastic. The transfer, brilliant. Watkins to Isak. Could make a case that you should have had Isak earlier because he's been so good this season, but better late than never, and he worked out really well this game week with 17 points in general. So yeah, brilliant game week 17. Let's move on to game week 19 and see what you did there. And yeah, Saka got injured. You brought in Martinelli as like a like-for-like replacement there in terms of getting an Arsenal player. And the rest of the team is pretty much the same with Fernandes being suspended and Rodgers coming in to the starting lineup for this game week. And Rodgers did actually get points in this game week as well, game week 19, stepping in for Fernandes. Rodgers got 11 points against Brighton with a goal and an assist in that game. Cels and Aina, another clean sheet for them. Another couple bonus points from Aina, 8 points from him, 6 points from Cels. Robinson got an assist despite conceding, which he usually does. Got 4 points in this game. Hall got an assist as well and a clean sheet, 12 points from him. Absolutely amazing from him once again. Hall has been in all of these teams, by the way. Every single one of these Manager of the Week teams, Hall has been in there. He's been absolutely fantastic lately. And well done for anyone that brought him in this season. For this point of the season especially, he's been fantastic. Salah with another huge score for this manager, Alexandru. 32 points. That was the game against West Ham. 5-0 win for Liverpool, and Salah was there to reap the rewards. The one downside, I guess, to these 2 game weeks is the fact that you've had Liverpool just absolutely decimate Spurs and West Ham. And you only had Salah from those 2 fixtures. You could have had Trent in this game week, for example. He got 15 points. You could have had a midfielder, or Kakpo, I think, has been really good in these game weeks. So there are like potential ways to make the team even better. But yeah, you can't really fault anything with this team, or these 2 teams basically, for this manager, who's Manager of the Week in 2 different game weeks within the span of 3 game weeks, which is just absolutely amazing to me. But yeah, rest of the team, Wood with 12 points, obviously. He scores points every time. I think this was the game against Everton where he had a goal and assist, a really nice goal as well. Super well done from Wood, who's a fantastic striker. And Isak with his usual 7 points from scoring a goal as well. So yeah, 2 tremendous game weeks. In general, the current rank is 128k, which is absolutely amazing. You've done a couple of weird moves after this, which I'm going to talk about pretty soon. But it has worked out for you because you've gotten green arrows in so many game weeks in a row. I think in game week 16, which is when, like, if we go back to like the first manager of the week that we talked about, in this game week before game week 16, I think this manager, Alexander Stoichkan, was ranked around 1 million, and now they're 128k. So this shows you how quickly things can change in FPL if you have the right players and you have the right team. which this manager has had. So yeah, absolutely tremendous work. Really good point of the season there. Now with 128k, a really nice place to be in. I think your team is looking pretty good as well, despite some changes that I'm going to talk about eventually, but that has sort of worked out as well in the upcoming game week. So let's actually just go now to this manager's squad for Game 23. And as you can see, there's a big blonde Norwegian up front there in Haaland, and that requires a lot of money. So you can see Hughes has come in here. I think you downgraded Fernandes to Hughes to bring in Haaland for Cunha, basically, which is something that I did talk about like way previously in the season, that at this point of the season where Haaland had really easy fixtures, you could easily just go with him, or you could go with him in the easier fixtures and have a really nice differential player. I think like as the season went along, I think that looked like worse and worse because Haaland just wasn't worth the money, but he has been providing the goods lately. You could have done this easier or more easier if you had just done Fernandes to Foden. That would have given you a lot more points for a lot less hassle, basically, but can't really fault it. You've done really well in general. So yeah, it's fine. Even though Hughes is like a terrible player to have, he doesn't really provide any value. I think since you just picked a cheap player anyway, you should have just gone with the even cheaper price points, basically. Have someone like Dibbling, for example, for 4.5. I think that would have been a better thing to do. But yeah, Hughes is not really going to feature much either. He's going to be on the bench. For this game week, you have actually a pretty solid team. But you also do have the issue of just having one Liverpool player and no Everton players for the double game week in Game 24, basically. You also have 0.0 money in the bank. You do have 3 transfers left in the bank, though, so you could potentially downgrade Wood. Like I've said a couple times now, I don't think it's the best option, but it is an option. Downgrading someone like Wood to someone like Calvert-Lewin, for example, to get enough money to upgrade to someone like Trent. That could be an idea. Wood is also not expensive enough to bring in Gakpo either, so you don't really have that option for this game week at least. But I think the main thing that you can do, if you look at Haaland's fixtures, I think Chelsea at home is a decent fixture. You can score goals in those games. Chelsea do tend to concede at least 1 goal a game. But after that, the fixtures for Haaland are just terrible. You've had a couple good game weeks now, 3 game weeks in a row now, Game week 20, Game week 21, Game week 22, when Haaland has actually returned, and he's been pretty good for you. But I think in Game week 24, you can sell him. So we'd rather just keep the transfers and have enough transfers or like more transfers for the next game week to basically splash the money around for other players after selling Haaland. So let's just go straight into Game week 24. Haaland against Arsenal away. He has to stay humbled. He has to be sold. I think Gakpo is a really nice replacement there for the double game week. Works out really, really well. You also can just sell Wout Faes, who's a terrible player who doesn't really provide much value in general. And with the Haaland money, you have enough money to go and get Trent Alexander-Arnold and have the ideal Liverpool triple up, in my opinion, in Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mohamed Salah, and Cody Gakpo. But yeah, looking at this team as well, you have 2 Aston Villa players here. You have a Palace player in Hughes, I guess. You also have Isak and Hall on top of now having triple Liverpool. So I think this is also a case where you probably should free hit in Game 29. I think that's probably the best course of action with this team, basically. But other than that, the team is looking pretty solid in general. I think Martinelli is actually a pretty good option. Yes, he has Man City, but I think that's not the worst fixture. I think Arsenal can actually score a couple goals here, even though Arsenal aren't the best defensively. And then they have Leicester and West Ham in the next 2. So I think for now, you can keep Martinelli, but he is someone that you could potentially look to sell as well. Wood has a decent game week now against Brighton at home. I don't think you need to sell him here, but again, doesn't have the best fixtures, especially seeing as you are free hitting in 29 most likely anyway. So he's someone that you can sell. Like these fixtures aren't the best either, going into the potential double game week thingy here, or not double game week for Forest anyway. But yeah, so yeah, other than that, I think the team is looking decent. You have a lot of money in the bank obviously left. You have a couple transfers left, a pretty nice position to be in actually. So yeah, I don't mind saving transfers for 1 more week. You could potentially, if you don't like the Martinelli matchup, you could already sell Hughes and bring in someone else in his position. I would probably look into getting someone that has double game week 33. We think that could be the case if you go down to the fixtures. Like we saw previously, Bournemouth could potentially have a double game week in game week 33, despite not blanking in 29. Obviously, it doesn't really matter here if you're going to free hit in 29 anyway, but yeah, they're just a good team to target regardless with the fixtures that they have and just a nice run of form that they have. I think Bournemouth is going to be like the new team to target in FPL. Kirkis, Semenyo, Kluivert, those types of players, Huijsen or Hausen or whatever, how you call it, how you name him. I think those are some good options. But yeah, I think for this week, I think the team is looking actually pretty good. So I don't think you need to do too much in terms of the team. But for the next few game weeks, maybe there will be some more changes. So yeah, for this week, for example, I think this could be a good place to sell Wood. You don't really need them for these fixtures. Newcastle, Arsenal, City. I mean, City isn't the worst. But yeah, Fulham away as well is not the best fixture. And I think actually, since you don't have Mbeumo like the other two teams did, I think having the alternative in Jan Wissa could be really nice here. West Ham is a really nice fixture. Wissa usually scores against West Ham as well. I know as a West Ham fan. Leicester, Everton at home, Aston Villa at home is also a really good fixture for an attacker. I think GW29 is a free hit. And then like not the best fixture, but you can always sell him there. You don't really need to worry too much about that either. So yeah, I think Wissa is a nice replacement there. Hughes as well. You could go and jump on Semenyo at this point, but yeah, you don't really need it if you bring in Wissa here. So maybe you shouldn't bring in Wissa. Maybe you should bring in Semenyo instead here. You could just do the transfer at this point as well. I do prefer Semenyo over Kluivert slightly. I don't know. Kluivert just scored like 3 open play goals, and he's on penalty, so maybe he's a better option. But I just like Semenyo for several reasons. So yeah, maybe he's like the more pressing issue here rather than doing Wissa, and maybe you should just do Semenyo, because the rest of the players here are pretty good and not really benchable either. Maybe Isak playing City if City are really good at this point. But I don't think that's like something you need to do either. Cash actually works out pretty well here. Ipswich at home. Not a huge fan of Cash as a player or as an FPL pick, but he is currently playing pretty much every game for Aston Villa because they are struggling with some injuries in centre backs. So Konsa isn't really at the right back anymore. So he fits in pretty nicely in this game as well. Goalkeeper, you could choose between Flecken and Sells, whoever you prefer. I think Sells has just been better this season, so I do trust him more, even though it is Fulham. So yeah, but I do trust Robinson more at home than Aina away. So I think that's also the better option here. But yeah, again, the lines aren't that important. It's more important how you figure out how to use your transfers and stuff. And with this team, again, it's just mostly down to just trying to save up transfers for the later game weeks. I know it's kind of boring, but I think it's like the best tactic to have for the really important game weeks towards the end of the season, which is like the most volatile game weeks where you can get a lot of points. There's a lot of doubles and blanks and all that stuff. So I think just saving transfers is the ideal thing to do. Trent, like not the best here with Man City, but then again, he has really good fixtures pretty soon. Southampton in game 28 as well. There's no reason to sell him at this point either, in my opinion. Goalkeeper, you could definitely play Flecken against Leicester rather than Chelsea against Newcastle. But yeah, the team is looking pretty good here as well. Semenyo at home to Wolves. Seeing as you have Wissa, you don't really need to do that. So maybe you should just save the Wissa transfer actually and have an extra transfer and just play Semenyo here instead and just have Wood on the bench. You could just stash Wood for the future game weeks as well. You don't really have to sell him, especially if you have money tied up to him. But I think Wissa's a nice alternative if you want to get rid of Wood and have someone else. But yeah, always nice to have depth anyway. Who knows who's going to get suspended or injured or whatever at this point of the season. So yeah, it doesn't really matter if you have good bench depth. I think that's a good thing to have. So yeah, that's game week 26 basically, and you could just save up transfers. You could use the money in the bank as well to bring in someone here. Amad Diallo and Bruno Fernandes I think are also nice for these fixtures, but not quite as nice when you are free hitting in 29 because that's like the main draw of them, seeing as they play Leicester in that game week. Where you really want to have a good captaincy option where Fernandes could be the best captaincy option, for example. So yeah, just save up transfers for game week 29. You can have 5 transfers saved up for this game week. And as you can see again, even with this team where you have a couple more players, it's still not nearly enough players to have like a good starting 11. So I think, again, it's better to do free hit, but at the same time, you have five free transfers and yeah, 4 players to sub out, I guess. Yeah, I would just do the free hit most likely in this game week. So yeah, just follow the same sort of tactic that I did with the first manager here. Free hitting game week 29. And then you have to navigate these game weeks without a wildcard. That's the bit of a drawback to this tactic, I guess. But yeah, just looking at this team now, you do obviously have 5 transfers that you can use. You even had 5 transfers. Yeah, you actually get 5 transfers for the first time here. So you can use that to upgrade your team depending on what you need at this moment in time. Because yeah, a lot of things will have changed at this point of the season. Maybe Saka's back as well. So maybe you want to sub out Martinelli for someone on top of that. But yeah, basically for the free transfers that you have here, you try to target game 33 and have a nice bench boost or or assistant manager game week actually there, because you want to bench boost him 36 potentially with the wildcard and gaming 35. So yeah, just save up the transfers. You have a lot of transfers saved up. You can do whatever you'd like, really. I don't want to get too far into it because it is so far into the future. Who knows what's going to happen at that point. Maybe Oscar Bobb will be nice and healthy and fit to play at this moment in time. I think he's someone worth mentioning, and I sort of want to do that on the video now before it gets like really popular. But on the wildcard and gaming 30 especially, Oscar Bobb is going to be really popular for those that free hitting gaming 34 and double up in gaming 36. Looking at these fixtures, like Southampton in the double gaming 36, you free hit when he blanks in 34, and then you have really nice fixtures across the board here as well with City. So he could be a nice guy to accompany Haaland. Potentially Foden as well could be good at this point of the season for City, which is going to be like City haven't really been used that much this season. At the start of the season, a lot of people had Haaland and Guardiola and stuff, and some had Lewis to not much avail. But I think for the end of the season, City could potentially turn it on massively and have like a really good squad of players that will be really nice for the Game Week 30 wildcard if you're wildcarding in Game Week 30. But for this team, I think it's better to just stay away from that and yeah, save up transfers instead and navigate the game weeks in that manner. But again, you also want to save up as many transfers as possible for Game Week 34, because that's going to be another blank game week where you don't have the free hit to use either. So this is where you want to do changes and make sure that you have enough starting players. This team is obviously going to look a lot different once you reach this game week. But you could probably quite easily get a good starting team here with the free transfers that you do have. So yeah, again, don't want to get too far into it. If you missed it in the first manager, the tactic here is basically, especially for this manager doesn't have bench boost actually, which is kind of more easy to navigate, because you don't really have to worry about double game week players too much in Game Week 36. You can just have like a starting 11 of double game week players and then have a really cheap bench. Maybe that will be vital to get Haaland back for later on in the season. That could be like a thing, because you don't really need to worry about the bench boost as much. So that could be a nice route to Haaland, where you can just have a really cheap bench that you don't have to worry about, and then have really strong starting 11 with 11 double game week players in Game Week 36 without worrying about the bench boost. But yeah, with this manager in mind, triple captain in this game week with Salah, I think that's still the best option for triple captaincy. Game Week 24 with a nice double game week that we were handed to us basically. Game Week 29, use the free hit and just get the best possible team. Again, I did this with the first manager, but like I said there, Game Week 29 is such a good game week for free hit because you have so many players. Bournemouth, for example, Brentford at home, nice fixture. Everton or West Ham playing against each other, that could be a really nice fixture for either, depending on how they look under Potter and Moyes. We don't really know at this point who's going to look better at this point of the season. Nottingham Forest play Ipswich, which is really nice if you have Aina and Cells and stuff. They want to add Man United. You can free hit Man United players in. Fernandes, Diallo, potentially a striker. If we get any idea about who's starting there between Højlund and Xerxes, or a defender. And you can also target a lot of Wolves players as well. Aït-Nouri, Cunha, for example, Strand Larsen potentially as well for this game week. So yeah, I really like this game week as a free hit game week, as my light is going out of business basically. But yeah, so yeah, I quite like the free hit in 29. And then with this tactic, you have to use your transfers to get a nice double game week team here. But yeah, it's not going to be that big of an issue even without doing the transfers. You can see that you have mostly double game week players in this game week. So it's probably going to be super easy to navigate this as well with your team. You could switch your goalkeeper and stuff. And yeah, save some transfers for Game Week 34 where you need to really sub in players that do actually play. That's my voice cracks for the second time in this video. But yeah, so yeah, saving up the transfers is important. Just to continue on with the chip strategy, you would wildcard in Game Week 35 with this team. And then in Game Week 36, 37, and 38, you can actually use the assistant manager chip as well, because you don't have the bench boost chip to worry about. So you can use in this double, you can use the assistant manager chip and try to target those teams that are on the beach, that are 5 places above teams that you do expect to win games, especially playing at home. I talked a bit more about that with the first manager of the week from Game Week 16. So if you want to look into that, go back in the video and check that out. I'm going to leave like a tab down there as well where you can easily access it as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. A lot of different managers, 3 different managers and their perspectives. I think the chip strategies are kind of, again, like I've said a couple times in this video, very much adjusted to your team and your needs. So we'll just keep that in mind. Try to go through FPL.team with your own team yourself and see how many players you have for Game Week 29, for example. I think that's the most important thing when judging whether you want to use the free hit in 29 or if you want to use the free hit in 34, which I think are still the best options to do it. I know last season there was a huge debate between using a free hit in the blank or a free hit in a double, and last year it was using it in a double that was the correct idea. But I think this year it's a bit different because of the way it's set up, basically, in the fixtures. So yeah, all those thoughts in mind. It's been a long day with a lot of FPL content preparation. There's more to come as well. Yeah, I'm actually, I thought as I started to make this video, I thought I was going to post this Monday night, but I think I'm just going to post it now Tuesday morning and have a double upload day where I have a Tuesday evening sort of video as well, with looking back at the last 3 game weeks and see how the different teams have done in those game weeks. But yeah, pretty long video. I hope you enjoyed it regardless. 3 different teams, 3 different strategies sort of. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. I hope you also just keep in mind that you have to prepare for game weeks in the future. Saving up transfers is the easiest way to do that. And yeah, and you can basically, once we get more information as more teams progress in the FA Cup, as we get the final results of who's going to be in the League Cup or not as well, League Cup final or not, we can assess better in the future. So I think I'm going to make like a proper shape strategy video once we get more clarity on which teams are blanking, which teams are doubling in each specific game week. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching as always. See you next time. Bye bye.